Do you see a big opportunity finding with distressed multifamily operators where they might have been in bridge debt, now they're like need to sell? I mean, I think that might be a good avenue, but
as
what other
as time
avenues are you
goes
looking at?
on as
Yeah.
time goes on, this is becoming more and more. They might not need to sell that specific deal, or they have to sell some of their good deals that has long-term debt to cover some of the ones that have bridge loan debt. There's way more loans due this coming next 3 to 6 months.
I'm always selling people. That's what I want to show you on the show. You always look for opportunities, right? Even on a
Yeah.
podcast, I'm looking for opportunities. Well, everybody, I think you will get a lot of enjoyment when you watch this episode when it airs. Whatever you're doing right now, work hard, follow your dreams, right? Do something good for society. It'll help you make money, right? You followed your passion, and then when you make money, you start investing. All right, welcome back to another episode. We have a great guest today. We're going to talk about chiropractic, integrative medicine, right? Because we all deal with pain, and we're also going to talk about real estate. So, welcome to the show, Alex. Pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So, did you go to school at? I remember when I was trying to go to college years and years ago. I went to Life. We did a field trip to Life West Chiropractic. Is that where you're?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I went to school.
Yeah.
Over there in Hayward.
Yeah, I remember that. So when I was like 18, I went to Las Positas College, and we had to do some kind of field trip, and we went
okay.
there.
Las Positas, that's where my mom lives. My mom
Yeah.
lives in the complex right in front. Yeah,
Oh,
my community.
My brother used to own a condo in there too. Actually.
Oh, really?
Small world.
Yeah.
But I still remember that trip because that was the first time we got to experience cadavers, and that was very interesting for me because if you haven't experienced a cadaver, it's pretty amazing experience. So you got into chiropractic. So you went to school, then you went to chiropractic school, and then you probably worked for an office, right? And then did you start your office after that?
Right after chiropractic school, I actually started my own office. So graduated in 2008, and then I was supposed to go in and work for an office, but that doctor decided to move from Sacramento to Santa Barbara and found a boyfriend in the few short months from the times that she said yes to the time I graduated. And she was moving there. So I decided, well, I guess I will come out, and I was prepared to open my own.
And did you do like a cash office? I know there's like some that just do cash, or some do private, what we call it private pay, right? Or did you do?
So mine is pretty much all cash pay, call cash pay, private pay office. I started out trying to do some insurance, but it turned out that insurance doesn't really take care of people.
Yeah.
That's not the goal, right? And really quickly, I learned that that's not where people will get the best care. So I just decided that I was going to get really good at what I do. And after I get really good at what I do, then that's when people would come to decide to come see me.
That's great. And so then when did you start this new practice, or is it the same practice? You just became more integrative and I'm assuming integrative is we're really focused just not only on chiropractic, but also, ailments, because people are sitting more and they're in more pain. Is that kind of where the practice grew from?
Exactly. So it started off with chiropractic only. And as the needs of different people started growing, we added spinal decompression, laser therapy, shockwave therapy, stem cells, and regenerative medicine into the practice as well. So we really incorporate everything. When we have our team meetings, Beau, I really talk to our staff and say, if we can't help them, boy, there's a good chance that they're going to need surgery. Because if we can't do it with all the different modalities and expertise that we have here, there's not much they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, it's scary. I can tell you, I work out every morning, but I sit all day, and I always have a pain in my back, and I have to. I get the massage gun, and I have to just use it on my back all the time because I get the pain in the same spot. My wife always tells me, you need to go see somebody, but it's true. I mean, because what happens when you sit all day? I mean, first of all, that's terrible for your circulation, I'm guessing. Plus, you're probably shorten your hip flexors, right? So something's pulling on my back. I have low back pain now, and I stretch and I work out every day. So I know this is going to be worse and worse for people, right? Because now we're in a world where people sit all day. I mean, we
Right.
have standing desks, but I hate standing at my desk. But I'm like, I got to start maybe even just incorporating walking, during the day. Even though I'm doing cardio, I'm working out, I'm stretching, I'm still,
Yeah.
because
In
when
the
you
middle
sit,
of the day,
yeah,
that's where you should take a walk, move around, and not sit for 7, 8 hours at a time.
I do find that I get like Thai massages, and for whatever reason, when they walk on my back, like that really like loosens me up, because I also lift weights a lot. So I'm like, but it's so important, right? And I think, well, the reason I'm diving into this is because like most people, like everybody wants you to like, take this pill or this, but really it comes down to what you're doing, right? Is helping
Mm-hmm.
people so they don't have to go get this surgery, and like, because that's not going to be
Right.
any good for them.
Yeah, because the pill doesn't fix anything. The
Yeah.
pill, all it's going to do is that it's dialed in to give you more symptoms. And then eventually you have to take another pill to cover up that symptom, another pill, and 5, 6 pills later, you realize, wow, I wonder why my kidneys and livers are failing.
I know it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So enough of this, because this show is really about real estate, and it's also about business ownership. So, and entrepreneurship, which is what you basically did. You basically graduated and became proficient in chiropractic, started your own business. Now you grew it into this huge practice, right? And so you probably have chiropractor that
Mm-hmm.
work for you, and
Yeah,
you built a real business. It's not, you're working on the business versus working in the business now.
right.
So that journey's been exciting. You've been doing it for like 15, 20 years now.
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
And so you've done well creating money from the business. And then at what point did you say, well, to get wealthy, I need to invest in real estate? And what was the turning point there?
That was really in 2017, where a lot of people were investing in single family homes, right? That was, I just heard that, hey, that was the thing to do. So in 2017, we purchased our first, rental. And I realized, man, I was working my butt off trying to get $100 of cash flow per month, right? Running back and forth, doing all this. I said, there's got to be a better way. I didn't know a better way. And I went to a conference for business. And at the time, they were talking about multifamily, and the returns were way better than what I was getting. So I decided to start doing that. And I saw the returns coming in on a monthly, where as a limited partner, I didn't have to do everything versus owning the home. Eventually, we sold a single family, made some money, put that into multifamily. After a few years of doing that, I joined the educational group because friends started asking me how I got into it. And I didn't want to just say, hey, well, initially I did say, go look on this website, look on this indicator and that. And every time we go on the conference, they'll ask me the same thing. We go to a conference, they see me, right? Other doctors. Hey, Alex, tell me about this real estate thing. Hey, you didn't check out that link at all? Oh, no, no, no. But I didn't feel like, Beau, that I was ready to say, hey, put your hard-earned money and invest with me, when I didn't really know, right, the people really well and didn't know how to underwrite. So in 2021, I decided to get educated, learn the underwriting, learn how people are buying, the financing aspect, right? Be in the active side of things. And now that's when doctors are like, hey, Alex, why don't we invest with you? I feel comfortable now sharing the data and the science behind it and the numbers behind it with the operators that we know and the partners that we have. So that's how that evolved over time.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many high income earners, right? And they just never understand the real estate. I always talk about my brother because he's a financial service guy and he makes a lot of money, but like, I'm like, his name is Damien. Damien, you need to like, there's tax benefits you can get. Like, you don't want to just make all this money on a W-2 and like, hey, great, you got a lot of money, but like, he could be 10 times further ahead by taking advantage of like these principles like cost segregation. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I think once a doctor gets a taste of cost segregation and maybe figures out with his CPA how they can take advantage and maybe offset some of their earned income and things like that, it's a total game changer for doctors. I think the big fear of most healthcare professionals, because most healthcare professionals, if they're doctors or chiropractic, right? They're making pretty darn good money, but their fear is that they're going to invest, in something that they don't know, right? And so, you being a doctor, right? Like they feel like they can relate with you, and like you've done it. You were you didn't go out and raise a bunch of money. You got educated, right?
Mm,
And then they saw what you were doing and what you invested in. And it's a great avenue for people that make money but don't want to be the operator. And maybe they'll do what you did, right? And you invest as a limited partner first, which I think is a phenomenal way because you start learning how it's done. And then, eventually if they want to become active, they could down the road. But some people choose not to. I always tell people the best place to be would be either a private money lender, right, where you're just lending your money secured against the mortgage or against a house or whatever type of
mhm.
property. That's a great way or investing in operators, right? Like, because really that's what you're doing is like, hey, Alex, I'm going to invest with you. Is I don't really care about the deal. I really care about the operator more so,
Right,
right? Like
right.
that trust level is so important, knowing like that person, if something goes wrong, that person would try to fix it before ever losing money of it, right? And that's to
That's the
me,
big thing.
yeah, to me, that's what it really comes down to is that relationship. I mean, yeah, you can look at these big companies' track records, but really it's the relationship and feeling comfortable with somebody and saying, well, how did you get to this equation? Or, who's on your team, who underwrites these deals? That's the kind of comfort level. And just talking to you, we basically just met, although we were
Mhm.
kind of connected in certain ways, but you can just tell with people certain things like how they're going to run the business, how they're going to operate. So let's kind of dive into your first deal where you raised money and now you move from the LP to the GP spot. You probably partnered with some other experienced operators, was my
Mhm.
guess, right? And then where were you looking for real estate at the time? Was it in the Midwest? Was it Texas? Where was that first acquisition where you were the
Mm.
operator?
The first acquisition was in Waco, Texas. And we are part of a mastermind where there's more experienced operators in there. And then from there, we looked at what their experiences were, right? And where's the deal? We underwrote it together and looked at everything. And that's once I realized the area, the numbers, the expected rents, the costs of everything. And that's when I felt comfortable to have other doctors invest with me. Because the initial investors, these are people that have known me for years, right? There are other doctors just like myself, just like where I was a few years before that, right? So it's really, really important to really get to know the operators. That's the biggest thing. And like you
Yeah,
said, my biggest thing now is vetting the operators, right? Me having to vet them, and we do the best due diligence that we can to
yeah,
do it to make sure that our limited partner investors are safe.
yeah. I mean, that's the number one thing they say is protect the investor's capital, right? Like
Mhm.
even when I work with a lot of hard money funds and we used to they used to pull the money from investors. Now, actually, in hard money, we got institutional investors in the space now. But when I
Mm.
started, it was just mom and pop funds. So, what really drove you at an early age to really kind of like was it your family that got you into wanting to be a doctor? What drove you to entrepreneurship? Because it's one thing to be a doctor, but it's also another thing to own your own practice.
I've always wanted to be in the health field. When I was in college, I studied exercise biology, and I wanted to go to medical school initially. And that was really the route that I took when I was going to school in UC Davis. And in 2002, my mom had something called trigeminal neuralgia, which is a very severe nerve pain at the face of the trigeminal nerve. And at that point, I would go to the doctor's offices with her, and they would pump her with a lot of medications, heavy doses, steroid, Botox shots. And that went on for about 2 years. And in 2004, they finally, Beau, wanted to cut her nerve.
Mm.
And when you cut the nerve, you're going to lose sensation to half your face, and you can't move that half your face. that's when we started seeking out from a lot of other friends who are family friends, right? That says, where we will say, reach out to them. We're really private family, but it was the first time we reached out and said, hey, where do you guys go? How, we have this issue. This is the problem. And one of the friends says, you need to go try this natural doctor who's a chiropractor out in Belmont, right? So I was going to school in UC Davis at the time, drove home to Oakland, picked up my mom, went to Belmont. That's a decent commute, 2.5 hours to 3 hours, depending on traffic. And after 3 months, it was the first time she was better in 2 years. 3 months went by and she was 50% better. And I went to every visit with her. I told the doctor at that time, I said, this is what you're doing is, it's like phenomenal. I mean, it's completely changed my mom's life, transformed her life.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, how do I get to do what you do? I said, this is what I want to do. And he's like, okay, what do you study? I said, exercise biology. He says, perfect. You're already halfway there. You got the prerequisites. I said, okay, where's the school? He says, there's one right across the bridge on 92, Life West. You know, we're from Oakland. He says, you can stay at home. I said, okay. So after Davis, moved home, right? And then completed a 4-year degree in 3 years and graduated in 08.
My brother went to Davis too, actually.
Okay, awesome.
He's older than you. So, wow, that's pretty awesome. You know, I think it's, my mom, for example, had cancer several times, and she is like one of the best researchers I know. Like when she, so she researched alternative treatments, and I remember she did this one study, like everybody passed away besides her in this group, of cancer, and she, obviously she's still kicking, and she's thriving. But the point is that I believe, because the way she, learned to eat and the alternative treatments she was doing, she does all this crazy, what I would call like weird, like different,
Yeah.
like rays and lights. And, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, the point is that there's a whole world besides, modern medicine is really just about big pharma versus like
Right.
what you're doing is like, I'm going to call it God's work, right? This is what people need. This is what society needs, to go back to that type of medicine, right? It's not about, it's like people just go when they're like already, have cancer, and
Mm-hmm.
they think, oh, well, I have to do chemo because of this. And sometimes you need to do chemo because it's probably the only way. But the
Right.
point is like, I think alternative treatment and holistic medicine and all this stuff is so important. And like, if people really want to like live just like, your mom's case and my mom's case, it's like, and I know if I was in those shoes, it's, what can you do? Like, what should we be doing? Right. And like, we probably don't want to wait until we get into those situations. We probably
Oh,
want to change our
100%.
lifestyles today, and become more active. But that's amazing. And I applaud you for doing that kind of work. Cause I think, obviously it's probably pretty rewarding when somebody comes to you and they can barely walk because they're in pain, and like you help them naturally, where they would have had to do some crazy surgery and probably would have been worse off than they were.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you love your career, your business, it sounds like,
Yeah.
but you're an entrepreneur. So real estate was always like, when you learned about it, it's very attractive to you. So where do you own assets now? What states, what kind of cities
Yeah.
have you
We
bought
we
in?
we we own some in the Midwest. We like Indiana, Cincinnati, Nebraska, kind of in that local area.
Yeah. I like Indiana. That's where I own my little single family duplexes, fourplexes in Indiana. I own them in South Bend by Notre Dame College.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, the Midwest isn't going anywhere, right? And like, people need a place to live, and like Indianapolis has done really well for
Mm-hmm.
many years. So, and what are now with the market changing a little bit, right? We got
Right.
rates, we got a rate environment, we have, I don't know what else is going on. Probably the highest credit card debt we've ever had in U.S. history.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainties, right? But I also believe that uncertainties do create opportunities for people that are, Like, so what are you doing right now? What are the conversations with the other operators that you're talking with? Where is their focus on, like, do you see a big opportunity finding with distressed multifamily operators where they might have been in bridge debt, now they're like need to sell? I mean, I think that might be a good avenue, but what
As
other
time
avenues you're
goes
looking at?
on, as
Yeah.
time goes on, this is becoming more and more, right? People, they might not need to sell that specific deal, or they have to sell some of their good deals that has long-term debt to cover some of the ones that have bridge loan debt. And it is coming up, right? The conversation is, well, even, I mean, there's way more loans due this coming next 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
right? In the multifamily side. And as the loans are due, people are trying to make moves. They're trying to sell and hopefully get some of their money back. But I've heard some complexes that are not even being evaluated for what's, on the loan, right? So they have to sell at a loss. That's like foreclosure, when that happens.
Yeah.
And it's a scary time. We have investors that are like, Alex, when's the next deal? When's the next deal? When's the next deal? And we've kind of taken a step back a little bit on. I told them, I said, it's the deal flow is not like it was before, right? The really good deals you have to really find. You have to find, because there's still some discrepancy, because based on where the sellers think they can sell it for and where the buyers will actually make sense of it.
Mm.
There's still some of that discrepancy. It's
We call
coming.
that wish pricing.
The wish pricing, right? There's less and less people on the wish pricing, but it's still there, right? The urgency is not 100% there. In the next 6 to 12 months, the urgency is going to kick up a notch. And you're in financing, you probably see it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, there's always opportunities. And I look back to like when I was in a bad shape during 2007, 8, and 9. And like I look at the opportunities that people that were ready in 2010, 11, 12, like that was the cheapest housing stock ever. I mean, I remember I bought a townhouse here in Las Vegas in 2014, and the market had started to go back up, but I bought this really nice townhouse for 150 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I looked back at the history in this HOA, and during the downturn of like in 2009, those were trading at like 50 grand a unit for these really nice townhouses, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1-car garage. I was like, oh, like that was an amazing opportunity. I don't think we're going to see prices that low, but there will be opportunities again throughout our lifetime, I think, right? There's always going to be ebbs and flows, but the one thing we know is if you can withstand these ebbs and flows, real estate historically is not going to be less than it is, 10 years from now. I'm pretty confident my house I'm sitting in right now is going to be worth a lot more than it is today.
Right.
And, that's the hard part too, though, right? Like there's a lot of, in the residential space, there's a lot of people that have 2.75, 3.25, 30-year fixed rate.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're not going to move.
Right. I mean, some
so
of the deals that we
yeah.
recently looked at are people have locked into those long-term rates.
Yeah.
And we're doing loan assumptions.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, they don't want to deal with it anymore. If we can assume the loan and make it work, then let's do it.
Yeah. That's a good thing too, right? Like, cause a lot of these people, cause they were probably planning on like refinancing and paying off their investors. Now their investors are like, hey, we've already been in here. You told us, and their returns aren't as good as they thought. So everybody's getting antsy. And then you can assume like, 4% money, right, on a long term. And like now that's 7% money, and like the numbers don't work as well. So assumptions do make sense. I think we're definitely seeing more right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also a good point. What markets do you pretty much going to stay in that kind of the boring markets, I'll call them, like Nebraska's, and like you like those?
I like the boring cash flowing markets.
Yeah. There's less competition.
Less competition. You don't have those high swings. And if you try to swing and you're not selling at the right time, you never know. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for right now, the strategy is to stay in those areas. Could it change later on? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm up for it. But I really have to get to know those areas really well, before I switch it up.
Is there any other asset classes that you've been like studying that you or would be interested in the future? Just like you did with multifamily, you were studied. Have you maybe invested as an LP in any other types of deals or
Not yet.
not yet? Okay.
Not yet. Open to it, but not yet. I've heard a lot of good things about RV parks and storages, public storage and spaces. So I'm not against it. I just don't know it enough to say, yes, that's what I want to invest in.
So what are your goals over the next, say, 5 years? Do you want to grow your practice more, your business, or are you going to
That's the
grow
goal.
to other locations with with your practice, or
I would like to. Yeah.
yeah,
Right now we have 2 other doctors in the office. So I could do more on the office versus in it and grow more in a different city, in a
yeah.
different location with other doctors in there as well. So that's the ultimate goal.
And you can get SBA financing right here.
Right there.
You can get actually on a rent replacement deal, you can get up to 100% financing. That's not always advantageous, but the point is like SBA is really good for what we call rent replacement deals too.
What are rent
So
replacement deals? What does that mean?
so if you're leasing your building right now, what if you own the building? Because as long as you occupy 51% of the space or more, then
Mm,
it's eligible for SBA financing. So like, that's another thing that would be maybe a good thing for you. At every location, you start buying the buildings and you occupy 51. If you build from the ground up, you have to occupy at least 60%
hmm
with the intention of occupying 80% within the next couple of years.
right.
But if you buy an existing business or building, so that just food for thought. SBA
Yeah.
financing would be decent for that. You can use the SBA 504C. I'm always selling people. That's what I want to show you on the show. You always look for opportunities, right? Even on a
Yeah.
podcast, I'm looking for opportunities. No, but that's a good tool, right? And when you were talking about RV park self storage, and those are all SBA eligible. So those are good too, because you don't necessarily need to syndicate those because we can finance up to 90% of the total project cost.
Mm,
You can bring in just like one or two buddies that own less than 20%. So you don't even have to do a syndication. Just, so
food for thought.
you know, you got to plant those seeds anywhere you can. That's why they say podcast is great. So let me ask you this. Um, word of mouth, doctors find you. Are you doing any kind of outreach so more doctors find you? Do you
I attend a
put
lot of
on
different
events or anything?
conferences. So
Conferences?
yeah, I go to conferences where there's usually 100 to 300 doctors, depending on the event. So that's where I find a lot of the investors
That's
right
good.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I know like other syndicate, people doing multifamily syndication, like they would love to be a doctor, but they're not. Like it's like a good place to be. Like, but you are one of them. So you can
Right.
talk the talk. And like there's a guy and he's a dentist, David Phelps, and he was a dentist and he was like he did a whole presentation. He's been in real estate investing for years. He's not a big multifamily guy, but I think but he always would preach to his dentist because he's like, look, we're trapped to our businesses. Most people, right? Because you're some people are they're working for a big, hospital or whatever, and they don't
Right. Right. Right.
like if you don't own your own business, you're getting taxed the worst. Like if you're a W-2 employee, you're like you're making 500 grand a year and you're W-2, you're like in the worst place. Like at least you own your own practice because you get more write-offs and things. So those people need to invest in real estate more than anybody, right?
Yeah.
And so you can help them. You meet people at conferences. I think most doctors probably are interested. They just don't have the time and just don't even know where to start. So it's a
Yeah.
good
They don't have the
segue for you.
time. They don't know where to start. They don't know who to trust. They're always, when, they talk to doctor friends or family about real estate, and everyone's first thing is, don't get, scammed, right? You're going to get scammed. How do you know they're not scamming you? And then they freak out. They get scared because it is scary. It can be scary if everyone around you is talking about oh, so and so I know got scammed, and so, got scammed and this and that. So it is scary. It can be scary.
Yeah, that's for sure. Do
Mhm.
you have a website for your multifamily business?
Yeah, it's a Zephyr Equity Group. They could also reach out to me, just Alex Tam, either on Facebook or LinkedIn, and we'll hop on a call and chat. And before anyone invests with me, I always like to find out why they want to invest. Like, what are they looking to do to make sure that our goals are in line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important for me because I want to make sure that they're investing for the right reasons. That
Yeah.
if they're investing as an LP, it's a 3, 5, 7 year hold, right? It's not like, hey, you invest today, take the money out in 6 months. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And it's not always, I think people got a little bit spoiled in the past because the market was so good, where people were buying buildings for like $30 million, and then like 2 years later they were able to sell them for like 50.
Right.
That's not typical. And I think
Right.
that's part of the problem that we're
Yeah.
dealing with right now.
Yeah.
And
They
everybody was, given, we had the cheapest debt we've ever had. They gave us all, millions of dollars of PPP and idle money, right? Like every business owner that didn't need money got idle money, and I don't
Mhm.
blame them. I would have taken it too, right? 3.75 for the IDLI money. So there was just this crazy time. At first, the world kind of paused when COVID, and then all of a sudden, people got like this huge money, and everyone went out, and it was like Christmas time.
Mhm.
And I think all that money is now spent. Now we're at credit card
And
is
people got used to it. They
yeah,
they 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 spent it, but then their habits, now that the money stopped, their habits didn't really change,
you know.
right? So that's why credit card debt is so high because they got used to spending that extra 6, 8,000, whatever it is.
I know, it's crazy. I'm like, it's like the reality of it is now, because I knew people they had a pretty successful business. They got like $2 million of idle money. So it's like some people really grew their business, like like it was like amazing time. They got this huge infusion. Other people blew the money. So yeah, it's interesting to see just the kind of like the dynamic of what's happening because of all of this right now. But well, anyways, this has been an awesome episode. Where can people go to your website again? What was the Zephyr?
ZephyrEquityGroup.com, or
Yeah.
just hit me up on LinkedIn or Facebook Message.
I love Zephyr because you must be close to Zephyr Cove.
I'm right there.
That's how you came up with the name.
Yeah, right there. I'm like 2 blocks away.
Yeah, I saw the name and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know. Okay. That's awesome. Well, everybody, I think you will get a lot of enjoyment when you watch this episode. Whatever you're doing right now, work hard, follow your dreams, right? Do something good for society. It'll help you make money, right? You followed your passion. And then when you make money, you start investing in cash flowing assets and find a good operator. It's moral of the story, and then eat a lot of different Asian foods.
There you go.
There you go. All right. We'll
Well,
see you on the
thank
next
you so much.
episode.
Meet Beau Eckstein, the driving force behind Business Ownership Coach, unlocking the path to business ownership. Visit www.businessownershipcoach.com. Thrive with Business Ownership Coach.
Hey guys, Beau Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.